Just for a few minutes, Lee, when the end was near, and I have recorded on this iPad some conversations that we had in the hospital, and I have it ready to play, but I'm not going to play it because what he said in here was he had just gotten the news that the miracle that was needed was going to have to be a really big miracle. And we were preparing for some hospice conversations and things like that. And I'm not going to play it, but Lee had said that this is my intro. He was picturing a presentation. Lee loves sales. Lee was a laid-back kind of a guy, not an out-front personality like his brother. Lee wanted to know, hey, how are you doing? He was kind of laid back. I'm more of a congratulations, you get to talk to me kind of a guy. But Lee loves sales, and it almost went against his laid-back personality, but he loved the magic of sales and how to get people to do what he believed was good for them. Lee was a sincere salesperson. And so anyway, as he was describing how he was going to frame things to mom and dad and tell them, you don't have anything to be, your son is not going to die. Your son made a set of bad choices. And he didn't want them to feel guilty about the choices that he made. And so the decline that Lee had happened faster than what the doctors predicted. All throughout, he thought he was going to make it. They thought that he might have made it. But when it became clear that he wasn't going to, he kept saying, I want to make a presentation, either at the funeral, he just wanted to let people know what happened and how it happened in the hopes that it would help somebody else. And Lee, I had a sort of a speech here that I'm going to bounce around, I'm not going to do it. But some of the people that we're grateful for was the AA community who, Brian Oliver, who goes to church with me, the AA community, Brian's really plugged in, and they came and talked to us on the phone, and they came to the hospital, and they leapt at the chance to help Lee. And one of the guys said that a kind of a junior person on the go to the hospital team said afterwards, man, that really affected me. And I told Lee that, and he's like, well, at least I affected somebody. Aww. And so Lee wanted me to be real honest about his struggle. And so I am going to say a few things here. And so when I see somebody cry, I get really uncomfortable and I want to either laugh inappropriately or get the heck out of it. So if I see one of you all crying, ask your neighbor to pinch inside the inner part of your arm so that you will not do it, because I don't want to see you do it. No, this is very emotional. But before you leave, take a look at some of the pictures that I have it from the newspaper, from the day Lee was born to the shirt that he wore to the hospital over there, and his death certificate and some things. So it's kind of raw. This might not be a typical kind of a reception that you've ever been to, but Lee wanted me to be honest and frank about it. But that's not what Lee's life was all about. That's just what I'm talking about now. And I want to say, too, as an older brother, I experienced Lee. He was 4 grades younger than I was. And as I'm looking at our shared experiences over here, when I kind of peaked in the early 80s. When I was Briley's age, I kind of peaked then. And so when I look back at our trips that we took and things that we did, it's hard to describe how little I cared about how Lee was doing in 4th grade when I was in 8th grade. And when I was in high school, I really didn't give a rat's ass how Lee was doing. So what I'm telling you is that when Lee's friends came and told experiences about him, they and you got to experience him in a direct way. Whereas Lee was my younger brother, who I teased too much when I was growing up. So I didn't get to experience Lee. I told him in the hospital, I have just a few things I want to say about what happened in the hospital. I told him, Lee, I haven't enjoyed your company like this in the longest time, because towards the end, it was really very frustrating. And the people who knew what was going on with Lee had to go from being frustrated and sad to, oh my gosh, he might not make it. Oh my gosh, he's not going to make it. That's a long way to go. And so I just wanted to say that I got to experience Lee. And Lee said, Curt, I'm so grateful for what you've done for me. I said, Lee, it is hard, but if as many struggles as you're having now, if I had got cancer or something, you would have pulled it together and done for me what I'm doing for you. And he's like, well, yeah, you're right. And he would have. He would have. So this is a burden. Lee and I were roommates. Our careers were in, Lee had worked at AT&T for 18 years, and there's some awards over there. From his early years, he was a sales superstar before he lost his job after 18 years, and the decline really kind of got worse after that. But and I could talk about how the things that I've been working on the last 10 years look like they're really kind of going. Lee and I connected on a personality assessment tool called the Enneagram, and I have some things over there. Lee's laid-back personality, it gave me clarity about that joke I made before about Lee's laid-back personality versus mine. There may be some birth order things going on with that too, but this personality assessment tool really was meaningful to me, and I want to mention it because I'm tempted to make reference to it and go off on a little side tangent for about 45 minutes for you all. But see, on this tangent now, I've already lost my train of thought. But so Lee and I we did connect with this Enneagram, and I want to. So if it's worth anything, it's identifying what your unique weakness is that you don't even realize you have, being conscious of it, and working to fight it. It's just a tool to self-awareness, like AA is, like many other things. And I'm not an expert on any of these things, but so I'm jumping ahead to kind of my perception of what happened with Lee. So with the Enneagram and his particular weakness is sloth. And every number has a weakness that is very unflattering. That's one reason why it's so hard to get there. But in conflict, Lee is very, it's like the two sides of the coin. Lee gets along with everybody, but he can lose himself in that. And that's exactly what Lee said. He said, he had some conversations where he was saying things that were like, God, that is so, he's trying to find himself. He's lost himself. And so there were many avenues that Lee didn't take, including the Enneagram. I was hoping that could get his imagination going, that he could latch onto that, and do the AA meetings and do Celebrate Recovery. And Celebrate Recovery is the charity that was mentioned in the newspaper, that if you all feel so moved, it is a recovery. They have different varieties of it, but Hillside Church does it, and it focuses on the self-defeating ways of thinking. There's kind of a psychology angle. It's not AA explicitly, but it works with AA, but it's about some mental health approaches to be more healthy. And I do want to open this door. In addition to alcohol, Lee, during the years of his decline, he had a compulsion to fantasize about, what if I won the lottery? And he had pages and pages of it, especially as the stress of life. I found pages of it in little nooks and crannies everywhere. So in it, he would give this alternate timeline of things that I would do, including buy back the Paladura Club for us and have a big triumphant party and things. Kind of grandiose things that just were a little off, And so Celebrate Recovery, in the mental health aspect of it, Lee wanted me to be honest about this, and there's no shame in it. And so it's kind of hard to talk about because it was a real private aspect of Lee's life that he wanted me to say, so there I said it. I do want I do want to spend just a second on how things went down. So during COVID especially, Lee didn't have anything to do. Oh, okay, I know one more thing. Okay, so in hospice, there was a nurse that was there, and she asked about Lee's awards that were there, and Lee was starting to lose his marbles and his speech was slurred, but he said, "Can I tell you about my job?" And he, in a clear voice, said, "I would assess the needs, figure out what they needed, sell them what they didn't have." And it hit me that when Lee got let go from AT&T, it's a union shop, and his, "Hey Lee, you're fired," or no, "go home," to the point he was fired ultimately, was like 2 months, maybe not that long. But, and Lee had a betrayal, a friend who betrayed him, who, if you're seeing this, you need to repent, because if I see you in public, I don't know what I'll do. Oh, a financial deal, and her husband stole from him, and it lingered on. We tried to pursue that debt, and it was always, that was one of the things that Lee fantasized about, was that, and I think he had Lee's real sensitive, and I think that betrayal, I think he had feelings for her. This is getting personal, but Lee had some things that happened in his life, including, you know, if he had gotten fired and had to get another job, maybe he wouldn't have had that 2 months of sitting waiting on the phone to ring for 2 weeks, 2 months, whatever it was. So I just realized that, talking to that hospice nurse, that Lee had things in his life that unfolded in a way that maybe something else would have happened with alcohol. I don't really know. But Lee had some challenges that the way that things unfolded, that if they had happened differently, might not have led to where it led to. Does that make sense? Yeah. Especially for you people who maybe have more experience. And I don't want to talk like I'm an expert. I'm just an expert on what happened with us. But, so, anyway, this is going better than I thought it would. So the way things happened, so Lee called me, and he was drinking a lot more, and I thought he was headed towards another rock bottom. Oh, I got to apologize to Lee for being mean to him, because I was so frustrated with him in what I kept saying, your lack of effort. I know that you got struggles, but effort. And Mom had said, "Lee, I love you, I miss you, but you got to show me 30 days, because that's what we were, you know, Mom and Dad were in this tough love situation," and so, you know, he just could not do it. And so I got to apologize to him, because a few times I would like yell at him and stuff. A lesson, I wish that I had gone to Al-Anon leading up to it more. People had told me to do that, you know, for family members of alcoholics. I'm not beating up on myself or having regrets. One of the things that Lee said was, right after he got his, "You're not going to make it." That's what this conversation, I had just come in after the doctor had left, where he said, the doctor just said, "I'm not going to make it." But Lee said, thinking about things, he said, "I'm not going to spend the rest of my life with regrets." And then he said, "That sounds a lot like a week-long commitment, doesn't it?" But he was so brave, and he was so kind and funny to the nurses and the doctors and stuff. He really, I was so proud of him. Dad was too. Mom, we all were. Lee was really brave to the end. But so Lee called me and said, "Curt, I'm going through withdrawals, and I think I need to be supervised." And so I said, "Okay." And then I wasn't in a real hurry to go get him, but then he was already gone, and he had checked himself in. I was like, "All right, fine." And he said he was going to check himself into the pavilion. Good. They don't let you call people from the pavilion. I didn't hear from him for 3 days until I get a call on Wednesday. Saturday is when it happened. On Wednesday, where they said, we might have to fly him to Dallas. I mean, his liver is failing. What? And so it was a real shocker. And I'm kind of grateful for it. If I had taken him to the doctor,
I would have known during those 3 days. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I would have been there with him, and I was kind of spared that in a way. It sounds selfish to say it, you know, but so anyway, so Lee, we went and he was in ICU, and then he got sent to lesser severe places as he was touch and go whether he was going to make it. And I look back on it, and I had some great conversations with him that I would describe to you. But looking back on it, I kind of wish I had opened the gate to people coming to say goodbye to him, because he ended up not having the time, you know. But the conversations I would have with him, he would get really exhausted. Oh, one thing I wanted to say is, so during that time, so Lee, on his darkest day, he said, "I don't have any friends. I've never married." That's, you know, he said, "I'm not going to live the rest of my life with regrets." Well, that was his regret day. And it was on that day that Jason Gilzer, Jeremy's my dear friend, his younger brother, drove up from Lubbock and spent 2 hours with Lee, then went to lunch with his mom, came back and spent 2 more hours. And the word had gotten out. I wrote that Facebook post that some of y'all may have seen. I have it around here. I wrote it when Lee was still alive, and he and I worked on it together. And so, but anyway, so words were starting to come in once it was kind of public. All the friends and stuff and family and stuff. And before Lee's decline, he got to hear how much people were shocked and missed him, loved him and stuff. And so he got to know the truth, even though he felt like he had pushed everybody away. So I do regret that I didn't open. So, okay, so the doctors thought that he was going to have maybe a couple of months in hospice. So we thought that we were going to have time to let him say goodbye to family and friends and stuff, but it just didn't happen that way. I know I'm kind of repeating myself, but I do want that to be, because this felt like it was, I don't know, like it was a secret or something, but we didn't mean it that way, you know. So I think I've said everything I wanted to say. Oh, I just told Murray Gossett, okay, I don't think Lee committed suicide. And that's okay, I mean, that happens, but people just kind of want to know, you know, what happened, and it's a very private thing. Sometimes you talk about it, sometimes you don't, but he once the end was told to him, he said, I think there was some relief. He said, "I'm tired of the lying." He told Mom and Dad, every time I talked to you, 95% of the time I was lying. I was tired of the lying. I said in my little tribute to him that one thing I don't contest anymore is the notion that alcohol is a disease. Cancer disease, you know, that's absolving you of responsibility. I mean, I just always had this intellectual debate about it, you know. Well, some of the AA guys said, "Look, Curt, that word is an approximation. We don't really understand it." I mean, I know that there came a point that Lee could not help it. I mean, he wanted to. So whatever the word is, I'm no longer fighting that battle of word games in my head, and I would encourage you all not to either, because Lee didn't want this. That leads me to two final things to say. So, yeah. So Stan Marsh, who couldn't come. Okay, so Dad and I were sitting there waiting for the hospice conversation, not nurse, because they had just told us, and they were trying to scoot us out of there because COVID was starting to surge. And so, you know, Dad came up there, and we had like 20 minutes to kill, and I thought Stan, had had some problems. I asked his permission to say what I'm about to say, that Stan had, during his difficult years, got to where there'd be a bad headline in the newspaper and they'd start drinking wine at 11 in the morning. And Stan got to where he was having a problem and is real open about it. And so we called Stan, and I have it recorded on Dad's phone. Don't ask Dad how to do it. They do have a map system where So anyway, Stan called, and Stan's my lifelong friend. I didn't know that he had it in him, though, not saying that he wasn't, to be so humble and compassionate. Those wouldn't have been the first words I would have chosen about saying, he's a good guy. Oh, he's the most humble and compassionate. No, not really. But I could not believe the empathy. And Jim, don't feel bad. I could have been where Lee is. Lee didn't mean to do this to you all. He just knew exactly what to say. To John Fortner, Becca, he lost his sister. Lee and Becca went to Austin Day together. And John and I were best friends, and his sister is Lee's age, and he lost her to alcohol and party lifestyle a couple of years before. And John also has been in AA, and the authenticity and the sensitivity to other people's situations. And he described for me what he went through with Becca. There's some similarities and stuff. John was the best friend I can imagine. George Ratliff came, and Stan Marsh. So my family is closer than we've ever been, extended family as best we can. I've had conversations with extended family that, Lee gave us that. So the last thing I'll say is Murray Gossett. I said this in the obit, I think, that Lee didn't have a church family. And, even though we have a history, he didn't plug into any places. But Murray came and talked to Lee, and so sweet. I was in there for some of it, then I left so they could have kind of private talk. It was just so sweet. But when Lee was in hospice, I went to his room, and he had had a bad night. The night before, he had wandered around. He'd wandered around with his clothes off and was freaking out. He didn't do that. And he had this kind of guilty look. Lee, what happened? He just would get confused and stuff. But so I was talking to him, and he started getting agitated. Curt, we got to go. We got to go. Lee, you're here. It's okay. And he was just getting agitated. And I called Murray on his cell phone, and he answered. I said, Murray, I'm here with Lee, and he's really agitated. Can you pray for him? Oh, yes. And I held the phone up, and Lee, it helped some, but then, but anyway, I was talking to the hospice. They added Lee's medication, and I don't know if he woke up. He didn't wake up again in my presence after that, because he was complaining that he was hurting. And then so that he said, oh, Curt, we gotta go. And I was talking to the hospice nurse about it. They're so sweet. Gosh, the people who do hospice were just so kind. But I told her about that, and she said, oh, that's the journey. What? It's a common thing across religions. Not every single person does it, but it's a common thing when the end is near. People who have Alzheimer's, people who aren't, I gotta go, and that's what Lee said. And so I told, not to put Murray on the spot, that possibly the last voice Lee heard was yours during that prayer. So I'll end it here. I don't know if I can. I thought about this and how I could end it with some kind of speech that has some kind of, ending, or I wanted to accomplish what Lee wanted me to, which is tell his little story and be open about it, and in the hopes that it might help somebody else get help if they need it. And so, and I may have said, I'm not standing here like I'm some expert, like I understand mental health and alcohol and stuff. Like I said, I wish we would have gone to Al-Anon more and perhaps done some things different, but I'm not being regretful. But we're being filmed. I wanted cousins and friends and stuff to kind of hear what happened. And we're going to post it on YouTube, not make a big deal of it. And if the AA community sees if it's helpful to anybody, or just a handful of people. So if anybody wants to say something for the benefit of the video, Phil, my friend Phil, I forgot to introduce you, Phil. So if anybody wants to say something or not, hey, Dan and Jeremy, y'all missed the Jason part.
Sorry, we're not.
Well, I talked about how Jason it came up that day on the day that Lee felt like he didn't have any friends. And it was the day that Jason reminded him that that wasn't the case. So, I wanted to say that to you all. So, that's pretty much it. If anybody wants to say anything or not.
Lee, I would say what you've done is hard to do. And we appreciate it. It's cleared it up.
Thank you.
Did good. Yeah, I wanted everybody to know what happened. Good. Sure, thank you. Yeah. Lee would have done the same for me.
I know.
So,
I have some stories about Lee, but I cannot say them now. I would love to put it on the,
oh, maybe interview?
yeah. I would.
Well, that'd be nice, Phil. Maybe after we kind of break, maybe go talk to Aunt Allie. Or maybe say direct. That might be a good idea. If somebody wants to maybe say something, I don't know.
I had to write it down.
Well, Lee was, we were so frustrated with him and so sad for him. And a lot of y'all didn't, a lot of people said, I had no idea. Well, it was kind of years in the making. It kind of was. And so, I know people have more experience with this topic, but it was years in the making, looking back on it. And so, he didn't find an off-ramp, and we all wish he would have. So, that's it. Unless anybody maybe wants to say something privately, that's a good idea. So thanks for coming. There's a picture of my naked butt and Lee's naked butt.
That's what I remember.
Well, thanks for coming, everybody.
And then he